A man wakes up from a deep sleep and looks around. To his horror, everyone around him is dead. Confused and disoriented, he roams the desolate area. Not just humans, but all living things around him are gone, leaving him utterly alone in the world. What could possibly have killed everyone but spared him? Welcome to another recap. In the beginning of the story, there was a boy named Nobau, who wasn't feeling well but still went to his job. Nobau, a lab technician working in the biotech industry, was suffering from a high fever that day. Despite his illness, he went to the lab, refusing to stay home alone. While working, Nobau kept sneezing at his desk. A colleague, noticing his condition, joked that if Nobau kept going without resting, he might just set off the biohazard alarm. The colleague suggested Nobau use an over-the-counter cold medicine from the company, but it wasn't available yet. Another employee recommended trying an anti-fever drug that the company had recently developed but hadn't yet released to the public. This new drug was a blue capsule stored in a red container located in the chief's office. It was said to look like something out of the Matrix. Nobau thought about it for a while. Later, when he went to the chief's office to collect paperwork, he found that the chief wasn't there. Remembering the capsules, he put the files down and began searching for them. He eventually found a bottle labeled samples, and without thinking too much, he picked up a blue jar and took 3 red capsules from it. Unfortunately, Nobau had taken the wrong pills. Meanwhile, at the reception, 2 women were chatting when they suddenly smelled something strange in the air. Elsewhere in the lab, the chief professor stormed into the main lab furious. He had discovered that someone had stolen the red capsules and was determined to find out who had entered his office. One of the workers admitted that Nobau had been in the chief's office earlier and had likely taken the pills. The professor, enraged, grabbed the employee and demanded to know where Nobau was. Another worker mentioned that Nobau wasn't feeling well and had probably gone to the guest room to rest. The professor immediately ran towards the guest room, and at the same time, other workers in the lab began noticing the strange odor. The next morning, Nobau woke up feeling surprisingly fresh. It had been the first time he had slept well in ages. No one had disturbed him during the night. He left the guest room to find his colleagues but was met with a horrifying sight. The receptionist was lying lifeless on her desk. Nobau initially believes the receptionist is simply sleeping, but as he gets closer, he is horrified to discover she is actually dead. In a panic, he calls for help, but no one responds. Worried, he rushes to the lab, only to find all of his colleagues dead, and even the lab rats in their cages have perished. Fear grips Nobau as he tries to comprehend the situation. Assuming that something scientific had gone terribly wrong, he decides to activate the biocon alarm. He heads to the chief's office to find the switch, but upon arriving, he is shocked to find the chief's body lying motionless in front of the biocon system. Inspecting the scene, Nobau realizes that the biocon alarm switch is turned off. When he switches it on, the alarm blares loudly, filling the building with its urgent ringing. Suddenly, the chief's computer turns on and voices erupt from the screen. People watching through CCTV footage are screaming, trying to understand what is happening, as they see the chief's lifeless body. The company's director quickly takes control of the situation and contacts Nobau, asking him what has happened in the lab. The director then orders Nobau to gather specific medicines and confidential files and deliver them to the company's headquarters in Tokyo. The director wants to keep the incident a secret, fearing it might be linked to a new experimental drug that had been secretly commissioned by the government. As Nobau starts collecting the items, it dawns on him. The secret medicine the director mentioned is the very pill he took the previous day. Panic sets in, but he hastily packs everything into his briefcase and leaves the lab on his bicycle. On his way out, he notices a flock of birds flying erratically nearby. To his shock, the birds suddenly fall from the sky dead. One of the birds hits him, causing him to fall off his bike. When he regains consciousness, he is surrounded by the bodies of dead animals, scattered across the road. It's a bizarre sight, made even more strange by the fact that, despite it being the wrong season, all the plants around him are flourishing unnaturally. Nobau climbs to the rooftop of a nearby building and spots a crashed ambulance in the distance. When he investigates, he finds the ambulance crew dead, just like everyone in the lab. As he continues his journey, he realizes that it's not just the ambulance. All around, vehicles are crashed, and everything is eerily quiet, with no signs of life except for the bodies strewn across the streets. Meanwhile, in Tokyo, the company director is seen entering a discussion room with high-ranking officials. Among them is a general from the Japanese army, who demands to know what is happening. The director explains the incident, revealing that it may be linked to a secret collaboration between the Japanese and American governments to develop a new experimental drug. The situation becomes more serious as reports of mass deaths begin to emerge from Kofu, a city near the lab. As the city of Kofu is being evacuated, journalists gather near the main road to cover the unfolding disaster. No one knows what's causing the deaths, but there is a strange, overwhelming smell in the air, so powerful that even gas masks can't filter it out. From a news helicopter flying over the city, one of the reporters spots someone on the roof of a building, waving a flag for help. They decide to rescue the person and land the helicopter nearby. But as the reporter approaches Nobau, tragedy strikes. The cameraman follows, also falling victim to the sudden violence. The last thing heard is the cameraman's scream for help before the camera cuts off. The terrifying scope of what is happening begins to sink in, and the question remains, what is causing this mass death, and why is Nobau the only one still alive? In the second discussion, the general states that he has never heard of the medical research being conducted. The director and his colleagues then reveal that the Prime Minister had secretly assigned them to develop a powerful bioweapon to protect the country. This led to the formation of a covert research team within the company. One of the analysts monitoring the situation informs the director that the epicenter of the disaster appears to be moving, possibly due to the wind. The director explains to the general that their mission now is to retrieve the files and samples from Nobau. The general is shocked to learn that Nobau is still alive amidst the chaos and realizes that Nobau may be the source of the tragedy. Meanwhile, Nobau is walking through streets filled with dead bodies and yellow gas. He doesn't yet realize that the gas is emanating from him. As the army returns to Kafu City, after evacuating the residents, they spot Nobau walking toward them. Initially, they plan to seal off the tunnel, but instead they attempt to remove Nobau. However, when soldiers approach him, they die instantly. The army quickly understands that Nobau is the source of the deadly gas, noticing the green dust trailing behind him. They decide to retreat, leaving Nobau behind, but Nobau remains unaware of the danger he poses and tries to follow them. Terrified, the soldiers attempt to flee from him. As Nobau continues to walk through the desert, he finally notices the green smoke surrounding him and tries to run away from it. Meanwhile, scientists determine that the gas coming from Nobau is a result of the experimental drug reacting with another chemical in his body. This reaction produces a deadly gas, whose potency seems to fluctuate based on Nobau's mood and metabolism. To contain the situation, the Japanese army wants to eliminate Nobau. However, the US government, which has invested heavily in the development of the drug, wants to capture him alive. The general, frustrated and angry, argues that his duty is to protect the people of Japan, regardless of the US interests. Nobau, unaware of the chaos he's causing, continues on his journey to Tokyo to deliver the files and medicine as instructed. As he nears the city, the military opens fire on him, launching missiles and using tanks, jets, and helicopters to stop him. Miraculously, Nobau survives every attack. It is soon discovered that the chemicals emanating from his body are interfering with the targeting systems of the military's machines, causing them to miss their mark and malfunction. As Nobau approaches Tokyo, the situation becomes increasingly dire. The city is plunged into panic, with traffic jams and crowds of people attempting to flee by car or plane. The Prime Minister requests assistance from the United States and makes a public statement about the national emergency. In response, an American general overseeing the situation takes charge and sends in NASA's special squad, equipped with state-of-the-art spacesuits. These prototype suits can block electromagnetic radiation and are designed to help the soldiers capture Nobau without being affected by the gas. The Japanese army devises a plan to trap Nobau in a tunnel leading to Tokyo. They aim to freeze him by flooding the tunnel with freezing cold air while NASA's team, dressed in their spacesuits, enters the tunnel to capture him. As the team approaches, Nobau notices their strange appearance and becomes frightened. He tries to flee, but there's nowhere for him to go. The panic causes an intense release of the deadly gas, which disrupts the army's machinery, forcing them to pull back temporarily. After several tense minutes of lost communication with NASA's team, the analysts finally manage to track them again. The intensity of the gas appears to be decreasing, and the footage reveals that NASA's squad has successfully placed Nobau into an isolation containment bag. The team transports him safely back to the military headquarters in Tokyo. At the end, one of NASA's soldiers, holding the briefcase with the files, delivers it to the military officials. Everyone at the military headquarters felt relieved. When he removed the helmet, everyone was shocked to see Nobau inside instead of the soldier. People immediately started running in fear. Before anyone could react, Nobau ejected from the suit, and gas spread everywhere. Thank you for watching the video. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content.